playoffs start here. I know I sound curmudgeonly, by the way. I know you're kind of rooting for Kansas City, I think you said, but I don't care. I'm done. I'm not rooting for anybody at this point, man. I hope that for the first year in history, nobody wins the World Series. I don't think that's possible. Pretty sure somebody's going to end up with the trophy, but I don't.
Yeah,
have
I sure
a
would like
interest.
to see. Sure would like to see Baltimore beat the Tigers.
Yes,
that is one series where I definitely have a rooting interest. I don't like the Tigers, and
nope.
Victor notwithstanding. But yeah,
no, you got to run them out.
Orioles come out in that, and who knows? We may end up looking at an LA freeway series this year.
Wow, yeah, you know what? The possibility is there. I'm looking at things, and I had the Dodgers. Of course, I had the Indians and the Dodgers in the World Series, so I was a little bit off on that one. But I'm sticking with the Dodgers. I do think that they come out of the National League there. Although, man, I don't know, Washington.
The Nationals look pretty darn good.
Not only do they look good, but when you end your season the way they did yesterday with the diving catch and the no-hitter and all that, man, maybe they're the team of destiny this year. Maybe fates are finally shining on the nation's capital there, and the former Montreal Expos turned Washington.
That's right.
I almost called
really
them the Senators. I almost called them the Senators right there. That would be the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah. Speaking of the Montreal Expos, it was just a little bit of trivia that somebody brought up. The kid that's playing quarterback for Texas A&M, Kenny Hill.
That's Ken Hill's son. Yeah, former
Ken
Indian.
Hill's son. Yeah, I did not know. I think Bill Livingston or somebody pointed that out the other day, and I just thought that was very interesting.
Really?
Ken Hill, Indians fans will remember
going
4-1 in 11 starts in 1995, won a couple of postseason games for the Tribe, and one of those kind of flash-in-the-pan players that comes in, and I didn't realize till I kind of looked him up that he was second in the Cy Young voting the year before he came to Cleveland in '95, and ended up doing a nice job for the Tribe, especially in the postseason. Won two playoff games in '95 for the Tribe.
See, don't be Dan Wismar. If you listen to the Sports Fix, you knew a month before Bill Livingston tweeted that out the other day that was the son of former Indian Kenny Hill, because we talked about it here on the show.
I must have missed it. I guess I just wasn't paying attention that day.
I caught it on a fluke. It was the day after their opening game of the season when he broke Manziel's record there as the freshman.
You were on top of that day, and I missed it. How about that?
I didn't realize it either. I heard an announcer on the game mention it, and I go, "Oh my, Ken Hill, yeah, that's the So, and I always point to Kenny Hill for that Indians team there. That was what pushed it down the stretch. That was that making the trade for that veteran guy. And yeah, I remember him. He had them couple of seasons where he was really locked in there. But yeah, I didn't know either until I was watching that game and he broke the record there and they mentioned it, and I said, man, I never put the name Ken Hill together until I saw that there. So yeah, but interesting to see that too, man. We'll see. Hey man, I'm telling you, the window is wide open for this Indians team. We'll have to see how they attack this offseason, and we'll see how this thing finishes off. I'm looking at the other side. I got to tell you, Oakland stumbled so badly into this playoff. I can't see them doing anything. Kansas City, I mean, they did have to get hot down the stretch. Detroit barely held them off by a game. How about that, by the way? Back-to-back seasons, Detroit holds off Cleveland, even though it wasn't really holding them off as much as it looked in the standings. And then they hold off Kansas City by a game. They win the division by one game back-to-back years from both the Indians and the Royals. But, man, looking at the teams, I mean, Baltimore, they've got their weaknesses too, but they're even coming in cold. They're coming in. Look at all the playoff teams. Baltimore's 4-6 in their last 10. Angels 3-7, 3-game losing streak to end the season. So a couple of teams heading in hot. Nobody in the American League is going into the playoffs on fire. Nobody has played better than 50-60% in the last 2 weeks. So interesting to see the parity there. But I think LA on the other side, I don't know. I think you're right. I can see the Angels. I think I can see them. Although it's rare that the number one team on both sides ends up making it there. But I guess if I had to pick, I'd say the Angels and either the Dodgers or the Nationals there could be your World Series matchup. The LA Subway Freeway Series, whatever you want to call it there, could be interesting.
Yeah, that's true. I'd love to see an Orioles-Angels ALCS and a Washington LA NLCS. That would make for some compelling baseball. And
Sure
I just love playoff time. Obviously love it better when the Indians are involved in it, but it's always a great time of year. Football hitting high speed, and NBA actually warming up and playing an exhibition game, and the baseball playoffs going on. So it's a fabulous time of year. What did you? I'm assuming you got a chance to see our Buckeyes Saturday night.
Yeah, that's where I was getting ready to switch us over into, as the Buckeyes and Cincinnati got at it, and we both kind of talked about last week previewing the game how we thought it was going to go. And first half, relatively competitive. What was the half? Was it 30-21? Was the
30-21 at the
score?
half? Yeah, 30-7 at one point. And it looked like it was going to be a non-competitive. But we knew that Cincinnati was going to be able to throw a scare into the Buckeyes, and they definitely did, especially when they came back out in the second half and swapped a field goal for a touchdown and got within 5 points there in the third quarter before the Buckeyes kind of righted the ship.
Yeah, 33-28.
Yeah, there was just no stopping that offense. I mean, Cincinnati was just clueless. At Tuberville, I was a little surprised that he admitted at halftime that we got no answer for that inside zone rush. Ezekiel Elliott picking up 7, 8, 9 yards of carry, and the offense just clicking all cylinders. I couldn't believe when they told me middle of the third quarter that the Buckeyes had 37 first downs. I mean, that was incredible. They ended up tying the NCAA record for first downs in a game with 45.
45,
There was just no stopping them, and they tuned it up, and I think J.T. Barrett, he just looked so comfortable back there. He scrambled. He was smart. Just the decision-making was excellent. No interceptions. The second highest total yardage number in Ohio State history, 3 yards short of the record, of Art Schleister's record. So really just a remarkable performance by him, and by credit Tom Herman, criticize him in the Virginia Tech game for his play calling. I think maybe he might get a little too cute from time to time and in his play calling, but boy, you've got to hand the credit to him and to those skill position players on the offensive line and everybody, because they were just a steamroller, and Elliott had a big game, and he is just a tough load to bring down, and J.T. Barrett just looked sharp, accurate throwing the ball, and that last pass to Devin Smith for the touchdown was just a beautiful throw. He shows me some nice touch and certainly some accuracy, although I will say this, Jerry, that this morning in his press conference, or this afternoon, Meyer said, there is no debate if Braxton is back, he's my quarterback. So talking about next season, people questioning now whether there might be a competition for the quarterback job, and Meyer put that to rest quickly, that if Braxton is back, he's our quarterback. So don't start that debate, because in Urban Meyer's mind, it is not a debate.
Well, I want to see J.T. Barrett. You go out here and do this against Michigan State instead of Cincinnati, and then maybe people can say, well, what do you do next year? Right now, it's just a good performance, and it was what you needed to do here is when you took on Cincinnati. And, when the game started, man, I mean, right off the bat, very quickly, long touchdown pass, man, and you're thinking, wow, Cincinnati came to play right off the bat. But I know Coach Meyer wasn't happy, and he quickly fired the troops up as they boom. Next thing you know, pounded away. They're up 30-7, and then a couple of touchdowns. You come out, like you said, you got it down to a 5-point game there. But then Ohio State said, "Look, enough is enough with this. We're done monkeying around." 700 total yards of offense and passing. Hey, we talked about Gunnar Kiel for Cincinnati. He definitely lived up to his name, as he was 21 of 32 for 352. He did score 4 touchdowns. He passed well against the Buckeyes defense. That's, of course, going to be the one big thing if you take away from this that Coach Meyer not happy about with his defense was that pass defense.
Yeah, and he was very candid about it after the game. Talked about, going in, can you win the Big Ten? Are you a good enough team to win the Big Ten? He said, not if I play pass defense like that. I mean, basically, it was his response was hitting it right up front. Championship teams don't give up 3 long touchdown passes in a football game like that. So he was very unhappy about it. The coaches, Fickle and Chris Ash, after the game, talked about, when you play press man, you're at risk for big plays, and we knew that, and everybody knows that. they called the first of all, Von Bell, I thought, had the first one defended quite well. He had his arm right up between the receiver's arms and up in his face, and it would have been hard to defend that ball any better unless he could have turned his head and made a play on the ball himself. But that was good coverage, and the receiver just made a spectacular play, catch, and managed to keep his feet. The other two were, one-on-one. Receiver wins, the DB loses the one-on-one matchup, and there was no safety help. The second one, where on the slant over the middle, there wasn't a safety in the picture, and they call them safeties for a reason. You've got to protect there. So, but those were written off by the coaching staff as man on man. We lost the matchup. Their receiver was super fast. Their quarterback, we're not going to be facing Gunnar Kiel type arms every week in the Big Ten, he made great throws. Receivers made great moves. We lost one-on-one matchups, and that's going to happen in press quarters defense. And but as Fickle said, you can afford to give up one of those once in a while. You can't afford to give up three of them, in a matter of about a quarter and a half, and you just can't let it happen. So. They've got some things to go back to the drawing board on, but they're not going to change the kind of defense that they play. They're going to have to get better one-on-one coverage performances, and Meyer said afterwards, you've got to decide, this is the defense you're going to play. Do we have the personnel to play this defense? In other words, do we have good enough cover corners? This game certainly made him question whether he did or not, and they're going to go back and they're going to talk about that, and they're going to look about reevaluating. He did say that he passed the message along to Chris Ash after the third touchdown to say, hey, drop those corners back a little bit. You can't play press if you're getting toasted like this every time down the field. So he did say that, normally he lets the coordinators do their thing and call their defenses, but he did say that he made a suggestion to Chris Ash that he drop his corners back a little bit after that because he started to question whether, in fact, they do have the coverage corners, the quality of talent at the cornerback positions. And you've got young kids there. You've got Eli Apple, and you've got, Armani Reeves and Gary and Conley and a bunch of kids who have not played a lot of college football to go with Doran Grant, who's on the other side, who's been a starter for a couple seasons. But anyway, they're gonna take a look at it, but I don't expect them to change the philosophy of the defense because they're committed to it.
Right, and you got to straighten that up because you definitely don't want to get into Big Ten play here going down the stretch, giving up multiple 60, 70, 80-yard touchdown passes over the top there like that. Like you said, no matter how well some of them are defended, I mean, that's definitely something that you have to shore up the best you can. And like you said, it's going to be tweaking. It's going to be pulling back the corners off the press a bit because you can't just go and overhaul things at this point when you're moving through with the season. I mentioned that 700 yards offensively. 1986, the last time the Buckeyes had gotten over 700. And I didn't even realize this, but what were they? 8 yards short of the all-time school record. I know you mentioned J.T. Barrett just missing Schleister's record, but they were only 8 yards short of the entire record for total offense. And I found that funny
because I don't know if you knew this, but they had the record. And then on the second last play of the game, the center snapped the ball over Cardale Jones' head. They took about a 20-yard loss, and they lost the record that they had already established.
So they had it. That's right.
In the final total. So that cost them. I couldn't believe people were saying if it hadn't been for Cardale Jones on that play, and I thought, wait a minute, did Cardale Jones snap the ball over his own head? I must have missed that.
He went for the tip ball.
They were blaming Jones for the fact that he's 6'5", so. That was a heck of an errant snap to go over Jones's head, but I couldn't believe people were finding fault with Cardale Jones for taking that loss. Wait a minute now. I thought the center snapped that ball. But anyway.
Yeah, last I checked, he didn't control that. But when I was thinking of that, I was more impressed. It has nothing to do with this game. The 718, which is the record, all rushing. Like, could you imagine rushing for 718 yards in one game?
I heard that was against Mount Union.
Mount Union in 1930. Yeah.
That's the kind of ancient history we're talking about there.
I mean, but that's
anyway,
nuts. I mean, at that point, you can't. I mean, you're doing everything you can do not to run it up on the other team. At that point, when you're putting 700 yards on the ground, and hey, big Zeke, 182 on 28 carries, like you said, ripping off yardage, averaged nearly 6